shameless plug incoming. Today's episode is brought to you by markshirts.com. Find your new favorite t-shirt today. Pre-recorded from Vulpit Studios, it's the Cult of MCS1 podcast, featuring Caleb and now your host, MCS1.
Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of the Cult of MCS1 podcast. I'm MCS1. Once again, I am joined with my favorite co-host via satellite from all the way in Happy Valley, Utah.
Via satellite.
I love bringing back these stupid terms. At the end of the episode, I always say like search, the Cult of MCS1 on, our website and all this other stuff. But I also say, and then search AOL keyword MCS1.
I remember that. That was my favorite.
I threw it back. I threw it in with our new outro bumper as well. Like it's still around. Like the announcer recorded a new one. It's just great. So anyway, Caleb Hennon, welcome, Caleb.
Thank you. I feel so welcome from my satellite here via satellite.
Awesome. So today, we got a really interesting show for everyone. And this
super special is what you mean to say.
Super special. It's really funny because when we first started like the MCS1 show, like way back in the day, we were just using it as a platform to just express my views on stuff that were unconventional and stuff like that. And then I don't want to say we got away from that, but we didn't like touch on certain things that like I constantly talked about or had to argue with people about constantly. Because part of the reason I had the show in the beginning was people would argue with me about the stupid stuff. I'm like, I already have my thoughts on this. You can just go listen to an episode. And I would just point them to that and be lazy and done with it. So I'm like, I'm not going to repeat myself. I've done this before and it's recorded. Here you go. And then when you're done with that, then you can send me your argument stuff. So today we're getting back into that. So this is going to be a very unpopular opinion. I mean, extremely unpopular. Sadly. And I want to say that like Caleb and I and Shane Barker may be some of the only people in the world that hold these views.
It's true.
But today we are going to be talking about Christopher Nolan. And unlike everything else that is very pro Christopher Nolan, this is going to be very anti and negative toward Christopher Nolan. We'll throw out some praise and credit where it's due, but if you're,
we're not unreasonable.
Yeah, I feel like we need to have a trigger warning for those that are just like obsessed with him, because everyone's like, I think it was like 2012, from like about 2009 to 2012, there was just like this mad obsession with the guy.
Yeah, seriously.
And I think it's kind of died down a little bit, but my hatred has not. If anything, fuel has been added to the fire with every movie that comes out. It's like a giant log, and we're just throwing it on the fire, keeping it going. And then when he releases a new trailer, it's like a can of gasoline. So
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like our trigger warning noise though should just be that very loud,
like a THX.
That's in like all of his freaking scenes.
Gosh.
I don't mean movies. All of his scenes include that noise. Like it's like, oh, she went to go pick up her baby.
So last week we talked about how it's cool now to hate Amazon, but it's not cool to hate Christopher Nolan. But we're gonna do it anyways. So
we're the only ones that will.
Yeah. So I want to talk about like when I went to college, like to finish undergrad. I for a while was I was a film major, and I was very heavily invested into cinema. How it's constructed, dissected, editing, like plots, themes, all that boring shit that no one really cares about. That's what I cared about. And I'm not kidding. All the entry-level film classes, the teachers, in an attempt to waste time and not teach, would ask all the students like, hey, why do you want to be into film or whatever? And a majority of the students would be like, well, I saw The Dark Knight and I just want to be like Christopher Nolan. And it was just amazing and it changed me. And like all Christopher Nolan's projects, these students would produce, they sucked.
Well,
So
I mean, if they were following his model, of
yeah,
course
and
they
they
suck.
would like just go out of their way to emulate him like 100%. I would watch these in class, and they were just terrible. And yeah, I'm not a Christopher Nolan fan. I will admit, like, I thought Batman Begins was kind of cool at first, and then when I started looking into it more, I'm like, not so much.
And then you thought about it for like 5
Yeah,
seconds.
and then like The Dark Knight, I remember sitting there being like, man, this movie, it's kind of long. Like, what's going on here? Like, it was, I don't know if this is for me, but there was so much popularity surrounding this movie that I was like, yeah, it was good, guys. And I kind of just fell into the group thing for a long time. And then
Sure.
eventually I'm like,
Sure.
you know what? Fuck that guy, kind of
Dude.
thing. Like, just
Fuck that dude.
fuck that dude. And I know it's not a popular thing to say, but this show not going to be popular. So we're going to get a lot of hate mail for this. If you want to send hate mail, there's a form at thecultofmcs1.com, a form box, and you can send all your hate mail there. And if it's really good, we might read it on future episodes. So
I mean, especially from this episode.
Especially from this episode.
That would be a fun follow-up.
So I sent Caleb like some notes for the show last night, and this is like, this is like a page and a half to 2 pages of notes, and they're not like fully formed paragraphs for the most part. It's just like bullet points. Like, this isn't on there, but it's just like he sucks, and it's stuff like that. So we're gonna get into exactly why I hate Christopher Nolan's movie style, why I'm not a fan. I've never met him personally, but I probably wouldn't like him. But why I'm not a fan of his work, and like it's going to be very cinematically driven as well. And people, like I said, people are going to hate this. And I've had to argue these points a lot, especially when I lived in Happy Valley. Like if you went somewhere and you said, "Yeah, Christopher Nolan's not that great," the whole room would just go after you. Like,
dude, you're not kidding.
Instantly,
you're not kidding.
It's nuts. There's like there's different ways to piss people off, and this is one of them. Like everyone gets triggered. I would say that bringing up Trump around a ton of liberals is about the equivalent of bringing up Christopher Nolan to people in Happy Valley.
Like, well, if you're doing it in a negative way,
negative way, exactly. Like
because if you're like, oh, I love Christopher Nolan's movies, he's such a visionary, they're gonna be like, yeah, you're so right.
Yeah, when I saw The Dark Knight, like, just changed my life. I realized I was meant to do film and not bag groceries. Like, it's shit like that.
Oh man!
So
what a huge jump!
I know, right? This was gonna be my career, but now I'm meant to make movies. So, let's get into it, Caleb. All right, I'm gonna start from the top of this, and we're just gonna go through it, and we'll give as much information as we can for this stuff, but a lot of it's very bullet point and straight to it. Like we're going for the jugular on this.
Yeah, we're not messing around. Unlike Christopher Nolan and on all of his movies.
Oh, no kidding. So,
wait, we need some exposition, I think, at this point.
We'll get into the exposition soon enough, or whatever. Like real soon. So, I want to talk about the general shell of his movies. Right. So his movies are hollow with one great actor or performance by a great actor, and they have great special effects, like very great special effects.
I can agree with that.
And this is the part where we're going to give credit where credit is due. Like the special effects were amazing in Inception, and it was awesome to see Doctor Strange come out with its folding cities and beat the shit out of Inception's special. Like that was my favorite part about Doctor Strange. When it was doing like all those crazy special effects, I'm like, this beat the shit out of Inception. Take that, Nolan.
It's way better.
I know
it is way better.
It is
in the special effects department for sure.
Totally. And anyway, that's how I just distill down Christopher Nolan's movies into one sentence: hollow with one great actor or performance with great special effects. I view him very much as a general crowd pleaser and not a niche director, which is okay, can be okay, depends on your taste. Like a lot of this, what I'm saying right now is kind of subjective, except that the movies are hollow and there is one great actor or performance with special effects.
Well, I mean, dude, if you seriously, if you go down the list of his movies, that's basically true in all of them.
Yeah. And like Michael Bay, he does explosions. Christopher Nolan is a one size fits all onesie type of thing. And Caleb got a real big kick out of this one. Whatever, but he is the Starbucks of films.
Oh man, it's so true.
Like he's got good quality, and it's something like, what am I gonna watch? I don't know what to watch. I'm torn. What do I want? I'll throw in a Christopher Nolan movie. It's kind of like that with Starbucks. Like, I don't know what I want to drink. Oh, there's a Starbucks. I'll have that type of thing.
Dude, it really is.
Because they're everywhere, just like his movies are on every streaming platform.
Oh my gosh, dude! What
Angel.
It really.
I mean,
it really does bother me, just like how much like you can't escape this guy.
No, I can't.
You can't. And it's like, honestly, okay, it's kind of a funny thing. One of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about Christopher Nolan is that the same way that people that are Star Wars fans are unwilling to admit that some of those movies have major flaws is the way that Christopher Nolan fans feel about everything that Christopher Nolan does.
Yes.
Like, I mean, Star Wars fans, like, they have, and don't get me wrong, I like Star Wars. Who doesn't like Star Wars?
I love Star Wars, yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's that it's a bad franchise or whatever else, but what I'm saying is those movies aren't perfect. But there are so many of their fans that pretend like they're perfect. Just like all of Christopher Nolan's fans, it's like, dude, every movie that he makes is a perfect work of art. His movies are better and more popular than Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, calm it down, buddy. All right.
Yeah, let's take it back.
Take it down a notch.
Yeah, or several notches in this case.
Yeah, several notches. Seriously.
So, the other thing I don't enjoy. This is just overall. Once again, we're still at the overall part about it. But we're not even in the specifics yet. He doesn't tell movies cinematically. Like with film, the point is to show shit, and he doesn't really show shit. It's mostly voiceover type shit when someone explains something. Like the girl.
Yeah, it really is.
Like the girl from Inception and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like explaining stuff to her. It's like if we remove that girl, 90% of the exposition wouldn't be there.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have any idea what's going on in the movie.
Exactly.
Because he would just be like, "Oh, these are just some things that happen in dreams."
Yeah.
You should know that. And you should just know about dreams.
And I think I can't remember, Caleb, where you and I we were talking about this in the server that we have, our little chat server.
Yeah.
Which we refer to as the name of it is Hillary Clinton's private server, by the way. For those who have been wondering.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. And I named it that like several years ago, but like I still love that name.
Yeah, it's impossible to go away from.
No,
it's just too funny.
It is, and it's just ridiculous. And the picture we have for it is like this superhero named Private Server on there, and he's got like it's just like a giant computer screen. It's so stupid. Anyway, as we were talking on Hillary Clinton's private server, I think Caleb said the person who always gives exposition, you either don't know much about or you don't care about.
Yeah, you really don't.
Yeah,
you really don't.
And
let's look at all the movies that he makes. There's always some random ass character giving all this exposition, and you're just like, okay, cool. And then they do like anything, and you're like, wow, he's still involved.
It's kind of like a third party narrator that just like shows up randomly for things.
Right. It's literally like the voiceover in a comic book. Like if you're reading a comic book and there's like in the city, in the background, like in that little box that pops up.
Totally.
That's what Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character was is in Inception. He's just that, oh, well, this is how dreams work. Just so you know, this random person who's going to come in and do stuff.
He occasionally does stuff like he fights in a levitating motel room.
Yeah, which, I mean, and don't get me wrong, again, a lot of those scenes are very beautifully done.
Very cool.
But to be perfectly frank, I'm going to just put this out there right now. I don't believe that Joseph Gordon-Levitt could fight anybody, let alone 4 of them, with no gravity in a hallway in a random hotel.
Not going to argue there, but it was a dream, man. So.
Oh, yeah. And in this dream, he decided he was stronger than the other dream people's
things.
I don't know.
Yeah. So back to the generalities of why we are not enjoying, why we don't enjoy Christopher Nolan movies. He purposely withholds information from his audience to make things appear like a twist. Like constantly.
That's true.
he does not use setup and payoff very well either. There's no setup or payoff. It's just like there, it happened, boom, it's now a twist. Oh, what's up? That happened, kind of thing. Mic drop, walk away.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, it's like he'll set up these like impossible. This happened. Oh man, well it's okay because we have this outweigh. No, we don't have that outweigh anymore. And it's like, why don't you have that outweigh anymore?
Yeah.
Why is it all of a sudden this is a special case?
It's like he writes into a box, and then from the box,
he's the guy that paints himself into a corner.
Yeah, and then from that corner, one of his characters pulls something out of its ass, and
literally,
we're gonna go deeper. One more layer of a dream. I mean, that's kind of that'll fix everything. I mean, that's kind of
that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll get him on our side. I mean, that's what he does, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get into a couple more specifics and back to generalities. So, The Dark Knight. This one is probably without argument, maybe with Inception, actually, the most popular movie of Nolan.
I would make you could definitely make a case that it's the most popular.
Yeah. And I believe it was popular because it was super edgy and it was a dark take on Batman, very much modeled after Frank Miller, graphic novel, comic book artist. Also wrote Sin City, a bunch of other things, blah, 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 blah.
Great books, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're into graphic novels, those ones are awesome.
So very much stole a lot of ideas from that and made a super dark Batman. And the thing about it was the Dark Knight is a very heavy PG-13 movie. And it was like nearly R. Like it was just
it was coming close. Yeah,
it was
for sure.
right on the line, just barely a little bit away from it. And
honestly, it's kind of funny, but like watching that movie, I was like, this movie's way worse than The Matrix.
Yeah.
But The Matrix is rated R.
And that's just something crazy to think about. Now, granted, it came out a couple years after The Matrix.
Sure.
But it's still kind of, just crazy to think about with some of the scenes that happened in there and all the other stuff. And so it was just a very dark Batman movie. And I think this is like one of the more darker superhero movies that's ever been done.
I agree.
And I think that's why one reason it was so popular. And because it was PG-13, it reeled in a much younger audience into people that probably have never really seen something that dark or violent. And they're equating this to a great movie rather than just like it's edgy Batman movie. And it was something that
and it's like the source material really isn't that great.
No.
To be honest. I mean, like Batman as a character, he's pretty great, to be honest. He's a really awesome, fascinating character. But honestly, one of the biggest complaints that I had is that Christopher Nolan's Batman is quite honestly the worst personal take on Batman himself that I've ever seen. Because he doesn't explain anything about his real motivations to do anything that he wants to do, right? And so it's just kind of like, just because it has the word Batman in it, all of a sudden he just is like, yeah, so he's Batman, but he doesn't do any of the things that Batman does other than like he beats people in a bat suit. Because like, he draws from the Frank Miller, which is a darker take for sure. But Frank Miller also portrays Batman as this great detective, not this guy who just beats the shit out of people for information.
Yeah. And so it's just like, I don't know, darker Batman.
Right.
And
you're right.
It really pushed the bounds of censorship and movie ratings. And there's like a vast difference between Batman Begins and how it was PG-13 and its elements than The Dark Knight. And same with The Dark Knight Rises and The Dark Knight. Like it's vastly different as far as like, I don't want to say gore, probably not the right term.
But violence.
I'd say violence. Probably a good way of putting it.
There was definitely a lot more violence in The Dark Knight.
Totally.
For sure.
Totally. So now that was a more specific things. Now we're going to get back to some of the generalities and specifics with those. So here's one thing I really noticed. He writes very shitty female characters that lack depth.
Agreed. I could not agree more with that.
They're just kind of there, or a love interest,
or they're just dead.
Yeah. They're just there as like love interest, and they don't have a lot going on. It's really disappointing. Even Catwoman didn't have a lot going on.
Dude, she had almost nothing going on. She got like 2 lines of exposition with her little sister in that movie where she was like, they were like, oh yeah, we just need a better life. We just need a better life. That's why we do all the things that we do. And it's like, okay, great. Now we know your motivations there. Friggin' what's her name?
I think it was
Anne Hathaway or whatever.
Yeah.
Anne Cataway. Anne Cataway comes into this movie feeling sad because she's poor.
Yeah, and the characters, they just don't have much depth, they don't like going on. And like I said, they're just love interests. Like there's nothing really great about them. And it's kind of sad because some of these movies, like there could be like really strong female leads, but like I said,
I agree.
The girl in Inception, she's just there mostly to have exposition explained to her.
Yep.
I mean,
and then she's there to like basically interfere with Dom's whatever plan that he's got going on with his dead wife.
Yeah, and
you know,
I mean, I would say out of all the Nolan characters, she's probably got the one that she's the one that probably has the most going on, which is sad because
yeah, for real,
there's been quite a few female characters, and they're just kind of there, like Batman's love interest in both the Batman Begins and the Dark Knight.
Yeah, and then who just like all the other female love interests dies.
Yeah, and they're just bland.
Dude, she was so boring. Honestly, okay, that was one of the things too that bothered me about like the Dark Knight Rises and the Dark Knight is that it was like so first of all, this guy turns the death of his parents into this big vigilante thing where he's fighting for a better world. But then his on again, off again, never really dated girlfriend dies, and he spends 7 years moping. Seriously,
Mom and
seriously,
Dad, I'm bummed, but girlfriend, you get it.
Well, it's like I'm pretty sure they never even like had sex, like they never even boned, and he's like over here, I'm just so sad because Rachel's gone.
Rachel, I mean, it's just,
and it's like, dude, you weren't even dating her.
You don't even know, like
you don't even know what how to feel sad about the right things.
So speaking of sadness and things like that, let's talk about the emotion of the characters.
Oh my gosh,
so
yeah.
All emotion from characters feels extremely forced.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't act like characters; they act like plot devices.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the worst of the worst is Michael Caine, because Michael Caine is in like all of these Christopher Nolan movies, and Michael Caine's a legend, and he's just using him as this sad plot device.
Yeah, he's always sad in everything. It's like,
yep,
sad Michael Caine. I mean, it's just I don't know, it's a bummer, but like they're all just used as sad plot devices. All these characters show emotion. And a good example you just gave before we even got on this topic, Batman being sad. It's like, my ex-girlfriend is dead. That kind of thing.
My girlfriend who was engaged to another guy who told me that it would never happen is dead.
Yeah.
Like, dude, she said no. Why are you sad?
Yeah.
Like, you're Batman.
Exactly.
Move on.
And so it's like, there's no like emotion. It's all forced. And the other thing about, lack of emotion with the characters, it also makes none of the characters relatable at all.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
It's like you just can't relate to any of these characters. I mean, yeah, Batman's cool, and people are like, yeah, I'm just like Batman. It's like
he's awesome, but nobody can relate to Batman.
Yeah, and I mean, I see people try. It's like they're like, oh, I'd love to, live vicariously through Batman, be a rich vigilante that beats people up.
Dude, speaking of which, oh man.
How is there speaking of which related to that?
Just really quick. So just really quick. So huge shout out to the YouTube channel, Screen Junkies for their Honest Trailer series.
Yeah.
But in one of their Honest Trailer series, I think it's the Batman Begins one, he's like, Bruce Wayne will turn losing his parents into beating up poor people. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so true.
It's pretty accurate. Like he definitely
he's this rich vigilante billionaire, and he's just like, you know what I'm just gonna do? I'm just gonna go beat up all these people that don't have any money.
I'm gonna take out my frustrations on the lower class. Like that's what he does.
Batman's a classist. That's all. That's what we learned today.
Oh wow, man, this guy. I want to say dark, but it kind of started off dark. So never mind. It's going
to be,
pretty.
It was already dark.
Even
darker.
Yeah. So speaking of Batman being a classist in some of his things, and the rich beating up on the poor type of thing. The one thing that I always hear, this is a bad transition, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's super funny.
Who
when
cares?
I do this.
Do it.
I always hear the argument that Christopher Nolan's films are founded in realism or grounded in realism. I always hear this line.
Like that.
Like this is the oh man, he's got me. I'm painted into a corner. He's said all this mean shit about Nolan. I'm gonna pull out my trump card. So they pull out this Joker card, and they're like, it's not even a Joker card. It's like the rules of how to play poker card.
Yeah.
Type of thing. It doesn't even really like matter.
The instruction card.
They pull the instruction card and they're holding it and they're waving it at me like it's gonna mean something. And they're like, his films are grounded in realism. But here's the thing, they're not.
Dude, not even
hardcore not. And we're gonna break down why in a second. You know what they are grounded in? Mediocrity.
Oh, take that, Chris.
So,
take that, Chris.
Christopher Nolan spins his own version of realism, which is really just a limited version of fantasy. One quick example of this, Inception. The shitty dream device that lets people enter other people's dreams. That's basically a LAN network for people's brains.
Yep.
That's one thing. The other thing is it's like The Dark Knight Rises. We're talking about grounded in realism, and the police are like trapped underneath, like, what was it again? It's been a while since I've seen this. I've only seen it once. But the police are trapped somewhere for like days, weeks, months. I don't remember. But they all come out.
Yeah, in the movie it was 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
They were trapped underground for 6 months.
And then they broke free, and then they just rush out like fighting and stuff. Like they're not fatigued. They're also cleanly shaven. Like were they given
what the hell was up with that?
Were they given like razors and like food?
Bane was just lowering them in some razors and shaving cream.
Here you go, friend.
He's like, here you go, friend. I don't want you to be sad.
Yeah. Your face will be nice and clean for when you can leave. No, we're not going to give you water to shower.
Dude, and then right after that, like my favorite part is right after that when they're doing that whole like running at them scene. It's like all the cops have like baseball bats and boards, and all the criminals have like assault rifles and friggin' tanks, and yet none of the cops die.
Yeah, it's like where'd they get those? Like instantly, it's like
Also, where did they get a tank? Yeah, does Gotham just have a secret tank?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Gotham kind of has everything these days. So I'll let Nolan have all the plot devices. But I won't let him have the cops with the baseball bats. Yeah, and the boards. You can have the tank, but I won't let you have the other random stuff.
Agreed.
Another thing with his grounded in realism type of thing is his shitty time mechanism or made up theorized time for all of his movies, like Interstellar, Inception. Like time does not matter in the Nolan verse at all.
Yeah, everybody's always time traveling and doing all these weird things, and you're just like, dude, like, come on.
Yeah, well, and then like Inception, like the dream within a dream, talking about time with that. And it's like, well, when you go deeper, time slows down in the real world and all this other crap, blah, blah. So it's not really grounded in realism at that point. It's just like he's taking what he feels is real and he's bending it to a very limited version of fantasy with his own world building. I'm not going to say that's cheating or anything like that. Like this is kind of subjective, but it's not grounded in realism. Like
I agree.
Like definitely not grounded in realism. He's doing his very pick and choose for what elements he wants of fantasy, trying to pull that into realism, but it doesn't work. Another example of his grounded in realism is Inception tried to make dreams feel like reality. But dreams aren't reality. Dreams are fucked up and weird. Like, have you ever listened to someone's dream? I mean, for that 5 seconds before you space out. I mean,
well, I don't really finish listening. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's always the weirdest crap that has no meaning and stuff like that. Yeah,
dude. Yeah, like my dreams are super fucked up. I mean, like I can say that very comfortably. Like my dreams are really bizarre.
Yeah, no one has like normal, boring dreams. Apparently, Christopher Nolan does.
Yeah, like that's the other thing too. Is like in the dream world, it's like when Dom and his wife or whatever, they're like, oh, they're in the dream world and they built all this stuff in the dream world, and it's like, I mean, is it really building if you just think it and it happens?
Yeah, building is with Legos, not dreams. Like
Come
you're
on,
thinking
guys.
and it's there.
Legos.
I mean, but that's what I'm getting at. It's not grounded in realism. It's taking these little limited version of fantasy and pulling that into a very normal, boring world for that matter.
Agreed.
So Batman wasn't grounded in realism. It was grounded in limited fantasy.
Also agreed. And I hate that they call his Batman the realistic take on Batman.
No, yeah.
Because it's like, dude, there's no realistic take on Batman.
George
and that's
Clooney
fine.
begs to differ. Where he's got the Batman bat card. I can see
the bat nipples.
Yeah, to be honest, I know no one's gonna like this unpopular opinion, but I believe firmly, as of this moment right now, without thinking it through, George Clooney is the most realistic Batman because he wasn't playing Batman. He was playing George Clooney in a Batman costume.
I agree with that. He was just George Clooneying the whole time.
He needed a paycheck, and he was like, "This is it." So yeah, Clooney was a terrible Batman, not gonna lie, but he wasn't Batman. He was George Clooney in a Batman costume.
Yes,
but I remember watching The Dark Knight once when I worked at college. I was like an RA, and I was at the front desk with the police officer, and our job was to chill with the police officers at night before we did rounds, that kind of stuff. And
sure.
One night I was watching the Dark Knight with a police officer who'd never seen it, and it got to he was just making fun of it the whole time, and it got to the part where Commissioner Gordon's like, "Mount the curb," drive up on the curb or whatever, and the cop just starts laughing. He's like, "Yeah, something like that would never happen. They weren't using lingo like that. It was just ridiculous type of thing." And
but remember, it's based in reality,
grounded in realism. And then the whole basically the end of The Dark Knight, Batman taking the fall for Harvey Dent's bullshit.
So stupid.
Okay, let's go through this. Batman, the vigilante, who doesn't kill anyone in these movies. It's like
doesn't even kill the Joker.
Doesn't even kill the Joker. All of a sudden, he's like,
clearly deserved it.
Yeah, I killed those cops. Tell everyone I killed those cops. Wow, that was a quick 180. Like he had no problem doing that, and he's like, "We won't damage Dent's legacy." How hard?
Why?
Yeah, why? Though? How hard is it for people to believe that okay, this guy lost his girlfriend, had a bunch of gasoline on his face, massively messed up, was dealing with a lot of corruption. How hard is it to believe the guy snapped?
Not at all.
Is Gotham that sheltered? And here's the thing: it's not. We know
it's not.
We know that. I mean,
obviously, it's
Gotham.
not.
Messed up shit happens all the time. I mean, they had a mini terrorist running through their city, doing weird clown shit.
Yeah. And before that, they had this guy doing some weird, throwing some weird powder everywhere that made you see fucked up stuff.
And then trains wrecking and all this other type of stuff. And then and then a man who talks like this. Running around.
Bane's the most ridiculous
running around with a crappy gas mask and all roided up.
Oh my gosh.
Happening later.
Such a terrible villain.
Yeah, here's the thing. How hard is it to believe that this guy snapped? Because everyone else is snapping. All this other weird crap's happening.
Yeah.
But this is not much of a stretch. And so
not at all. It's not even a stretch.
And so Batman's just going to be like, "I'll be the fall guy." Look, listen. One, Batman is not Jesus. Although he is worshipped nearly as much.
Especially Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Oh my gosh. But two, he's not going to be the fall guy. This is the only iteration that I know of. I'm not a diehard Batman fan or anything like that. I mean, I grew up with the Batman animated series. I got a couple comics, action figures, stuff like that. I've seen a couple different other animated movies. But I've never seen any other Batman take the fall for someone.
It's because it's not his thing.
It's not his thing. But Nolan's realistic Batman, he's the fall guy. But here's the thing.
It doesn't even make any sense.
A lawyer,
why would he all of a sudden go on a killing spree as Batman?
A public official lawyer that's high profile, going batshit crazy, killing a couple cops after all this crazy stuff happened, after becoming disfigured, all stuff. It's not so hard to believe. This is Gotham.
Yeah.
For them, this is a Tuesday, not a significant event. This is a freaking Tuesday.
Yeah.
And with all the other shit going on with the Joker, how are people really going to notice? Like, I feel like Gotham has only so many news outlets.
Yeah, unless someone you like draws specific attention to it. Nobody's gonna think about this.
Well,
they're not gonna be like, oh man, where did that one guy go that was a district attorney that only like 10 of us even knew who existed?
exactly. And for those people who are like, no, everyone, would know about this. It was big. We had a show last week talking about how Amazon plans to go bankrupt, and no one's really covering that. And
nobody is, dude.
So there you go. There's our evidence.
People don't pay attention to the district attorney either.
No.
I can't even tell you who the district attorney is for my county.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, who pays attention to the district attorney? He doesn't matter in most cases.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know. I don't even know.
So back to the general Christopher Nolan-ness or whatever, or our criticisms. His movies have no rewatch value. Like, none.
Mm-mm.
And I realize this is subjective, but I don't care.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I want to say my favorite movies that I just love have rewatch value.
Tons, yeah.
Some that I'm gonna just list off right now: Kicks and Giggles, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Office Space, John Wick.
Oh, dude, Office Space is amazing. John Wick is great, dude.
Amazing. Hot Fuzz. Great movie. Like, I love it.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, bro, it's great. Clerks 2.
That's a fun
I
one.
love Clerks 2. And the thing about Clerks 2 is it's one of those movies that like people don't talk during. It's just the weirdest thing. I had a bunch of friends over once, and we had this movie on, we were all kind of talking, and everyone's like, well, let's just throw in a movie that we've all seen that we won't talk through. Or that it's okay to talk over. And so we threw in Clerks 2, and then everyone shuts up. And my roommate's girlfriend's like, we threw this in so we could talk over it, and we're not talking. And
that's funny.
And then we all went quiet again and went back to watching the movie. Like, no one was gonna.
You're like shush.
Well, no one even shushed her. We're just like, it's correct. And then we just went back to watching it. Didn't matter.
Well, you're not wrong. Okay.
And it's like, you bring up a very valid point. Now we're gonna get back to this. So. Interesting movie, Clerks 2, highly recommend. But those are some of my favorite movies right there. And they all have like very good rewatch value. Christopher Nolan movies don't. And it's probably because they're super long, which we'll get
number
into.
one. Yeah, number one. Yeah.
So,
and they're just the thing is that honestly, for a movie to have rewatch value, there's got to be something fun about it.
Yeah, usually.
There's very little fun. Like, the thing is like Christopher Nolan movies, it's funny because like, people always say, oh, these are movies that you have to think about. And then it's like, yeah, but then when you do, you realize how terrible they are.
Yeah, and the more you think about them, you just get angry. Hence this show.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
The other thing about his movies is they have no memorable parts that like are amazing or mind-blowing.
Agreed.
Like, there's nothing in there like the twist from Fight Club. Or,
yeah, that was a good one.
No, I am your father. There's nothing huge. It's just a mix of mediocre. And people are like, no, there's some quotes. I'm like, okay, so these quotes that people use, they're like things that like people are telling stories where they're trying to force something in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. We'll definitely get to it. But one thing I did mention of his movies are not, having much rewatch value because they're too fucking long.
Agreed.
Like, they need to be edited better. Like, I remember sitting through The Dark Knight. I was like, man, this movie's still going. Like, what the hell? Like,
well, it's like it's just random. Like, it feels like it's just random scenes that were just put together, but they don't make any sense together. And then he's just like, well, we got to explain that last scene now, so let's explain it.
Yeah, and it's like the movie. I was sitting there during The Dark Knight, and it's like, okay, he caught the Joker. What else is going on? Oh, Two-Face. Like, that couldn't have been its own thing. And so now we got to tackle that and do that whole thing. And his editors are trash. And it really just upsets me. Like, they need to be edited better in movies. Like, the editor's job is to cut out useless shit. And Nolan's editors don't do that. They leave a lot of just useless shit in.
I agree.
And it's just ridiculous. And because there's so much useless shit, it makes it hard to get invested into the world. Like Interstellar, everyone was like, no, man, check out Interstellar. It changed your opinion about Nolan. It did not. I gave it 20 minutes, And I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm sorry, Matthew McConaughey. I know my
I was gonna say.
I know. I love Matthew.
That's your boy.
It's my boy McConaughey, the big Matt. And I was just like, I'm sorry, Matthew McConaughey. I know my D&D character alignment is chaotic McConaughey, but I can't do this, man. I'm so sorry. I'll watch How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and make it up to you later, or something like that, or Free State of Jones, or maybe even The Dark Tower.
Oh my gosh!
I like how I list off like movies that I list off a chick flick, and then movies that weren't critically acclaimed for Matthew McConaughey's roles, and he's just kind of there. Or drink.
But then Interstellar, you're like, nah, I can't do it.
Or maybe I'll drink some of his Kentucky bourbon or whatever that he's been advertising a ton.
Oh my gosh! Maybe drive a Lincoln.
Maybe I'll drive a Lincoln. That's it. That's what I'll do.
There you go.
Yeah,
putting money in that man's pocket.
I will make it up to you, Matt, but not today.
Not with Interstellar.
No, not with Interstellar. And Christopher Nolan's movies just too long, and I can't get invested. His editing is just trash. And here's the thing that really upsets me. Inception had very choppy editing.
Oh, dude, the worst.
Very choppy. Like when people would walk, it would show them all over the place, and it won an award for that shit.
Yeah, for its editing. That was the most ridiculous thing.
If I did that shit in film class, I would get downgraded to the max.
Yep.
But Nolan wins a fucking award? Get out of here.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
So ridiculous. And speaking of his editing, not just film editing, his audio editing is trash.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Not good. So, my roommates and I, we were watching, they were watching, I probably need to say, Batman Begins. And we're having a Saturday movie day kind of thing. And then the movie, the audio quality in there, it's mediocre, like everything Nolan. And after that, we're like, let's go watch, I think it was Expendables 1, actually. Because Expendables 2 was not out yet. So we go to watch Expendables 1, and the audio on that is amazing. So good. Just awesome. The surround sound, especially with the automatic shotgun scenes with Terry Crews, just blows you away. So good.
Yeah, dude.
Big difference. And my roommate was like, yeah, big difference in the audio here. Big difference. I'm thinking, yeah,
huge.
Nolan sucks.
Yep.
The editing of bad audio, and then the editing of not pulling out, not pulling out useless.
Well, just not cutting anything.
No cutting.
Honestly,
yeah, there's no cutting.
It feels like they were like, "Oh, this is a good shoot. Let's just put everything in there."
And so his movies just drag on, type of thing. And normally our podcast would have probably ended about 15 minutes ago. But like a Christopher Nolan movie, we are going to drag it on after.
We're going to keep going, guys.
Yeah, we're going to keep going. Let's
give some exposition.
It could have ended about 10, 15 minutes ago, but we're going to beat that dead horse just a little bit more.
Because our podcast is grounded in realism.
Because we're grounded in realism. Definitely. Oh, boy. So, as I talked about earlier with the quotes, and unlike Nolan's stuff, I'm having a setup and payoff here. I got really tired of everyone quoting Batman Begins. Why do we fall, Master Bruce line constantly? And
yeah, dude.
And being in Utah, I would, go to church, culture type of thing. And I would hear these edgy young adults, constantly throwing in this Batman Begins quotes into their church talks, trying to seem edgy and cool. And it felt like every month there was at least one person. And it was just so terrible. And then the other line that I got so tired of hearing was, live long enough, you'll die early. What is it? You either die becoming a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Bullshit. I got so sick of that. And it was just
dude, me too.
Ridiculous. So the lines and quotes that were in there, they weren't profound or anything. They were things from other stories or just slogans that were just thrown into the movie, forced in. But the one line that I really just got tired of hearing, not the hero we need, but the one we deserve.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I hate that line.
And
I cannot stand that line.
so what I used to do to purposely trigger people and upset them, when I would say, this is the you you deserve, but not the one you need.
That's awesome.
And that's true of this, because this episode is definitely not the one that you deserve, but it's the one that you need. And
you need it.
Once again, we would normally logically have been in the episode right here at the logical point of resolution.
Yeah.
But like a Christopher
But you don't even know.
Yeah, you don't even know. But like Christopher Nolan, we're going to keep dragging this out a little bit longer, just like he does with all his fucking movies. So once again, this is the second time you thought this episode was going to be over, and we're still going. Like,
so take that.
So take that, grounded in realism.
Oh my gosh.
Just keeps going. Okay, here's my final thought, actually. And the biggest gripe I have. If I had one gripe that I have about all of his movies, this would be it. His movies, this is my biggest complaint of all time. His movies make dumb people feel smart.
Yep.
Completely. 100%.
Yep.
Like, the dumbest people, like, trying to explain Inception, like, they're so sophisticated. It's like, dude, you spent an afternoon at a cinema and you saw a fucking movie. Like, you're not, like, an expert on dreams, dream catchers, how time works in dreams, Kicks, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Suits, none of it. You just saw...
You know who else isn't an expert in those things? Is Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, but that's the thing. His movies make dumb people feel smart, and they act like they're so sophisticated, and they explain, it's like, yeah, Batman's really grounded in real... Like, the Batmobile would definitely be a tank, like the Tumbler. And it's like... Who the fuck?
The Batmobile is also called the Batmobile. Like, of course, that's not real.
Yeah, it just gets so ridiculous. That's the thing. His movies make dumb people feel smart, and they feel just so validated in their stuff. I think Peter Griffin, he said this quote once. I don't remember what it was. I think it was making fun of Robot Chicken or whatever in the Star Wars episode, and he said it insists upon itself. Yeah, and Brian's like, what does that even mean? Type of thing. Family Guy at all. I kind of rip on Family Guy quite a bit. But like, where he's like, it insists upon itself. Honestly, if I could think of the best example of it insists upon itself, is these Christopher Nolan fans trying to
100%, dude. 100%.
Trying to talk up these movies. Like, it's insisting upon itself. It's taking this own world, grounded in realism, or just pick and chose fantasy elements, and it just keeps building, I would say, just building itself up. Like, in the most ridiculous fucking manner. And that's what it is. And idiots just hype up his movies. Like, I remember when I was getting my haircut, my hairdresser, oh, you haven't seen Inception yet? Oh, you gotta see Inception. And she was talking it up, and I was thinking, man, maybe this is... And I listened to the Provo Hair Girl. And
oh no, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, definitely a bad move. And I saw Inception. I saw it with Caleb. Were you there for that when I saw Inception?
I don't think
you were.
I don't know if I was.
It was Shane Barker and I think it might have been Jeff. Max may have been there too. I can't remember. But yeah, it wasn't good. Like, we all kind of walked out and we're like, meh. Type of thing. But that's what I really don't like about his movies. They make people feel smart. And like, when people are like, oh yeah, Inception's amazing. What, you don't like it? Just didn't get it. And it's like, yeah, layer upon layers of dreams. Time slows down. I don't get what's so hard about what's not to get about this. And they're trying to make it like, no, there's something much more, much deeper. Like, deeper than the level of dreams that they went? Yes, no.
You're like, no.
And so I get personally attacked, and people, no, you're just much deeper than that. And they're trying to draw like this meaning that's not there. It's like,
it's not.
Christopher Nolan, it is to cinema is what Rick and Morty fans are to science.
Oh, take that.
It's basically,
that's a burn on both of those idiots.
It really is. It really is. And don't get me wrong, kind of type of thing. And It's like when I hear someone like Rick and Morty, I'm like, oh, this could go either way. It could go really, really mediocre and okay, I guess, or it could go really south, but not really, really good. There's never a really good in that section. It's like mediocre and below, just like Christopher Nolan.
But see, with Rick and Morty, it's like, I mean, I'm a fan of Dan Harmon. I like Dan Harmon.
I love good Community. Quest is pretty good. I like Harmon.
But then, like Rick and Morty, Rick and Morty fans are just like Christopher Nolan fans, though, where they're just like, listen, it takes a certain level of intelligence, and it's just like, okay, stop.
That whole Rick and Morty copy. Fair.
Exactly.
To understand Rick and Morty. And that type of thing, and it might as well say that for Christopher Nolan movies type of thing. Well,
you might as well.
Fair, it's like, what do I need to really understand? It's so complex here. A rich billionaire is going around beating up lower class people in a bat suit. Like, what's difficult about that? And then
it's just really deep.
Yeah, and then dream within a dream within a dream within a dream, and time slows down, and there's a kick to wake people up. What's complex about that? Interstellar, I only saw 20 minutes, so I won't get into that. But and then Dunkirk, it's like, oh, it's complex. I'm like, it's World War II.
Yeah, it's World War II, bro. It's not complicated.
I've seen Saving Private Ryan.
Listen, I watched Pearl Harbor that one time. Okay.
Oh.
And that's basically a documentary.
Is it?
So, no.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I mean, really? I've never seen it. I'm like, is it? I mean, it could be.
No, dude. It's honestly, it's one of the worst World War II movies I've ever seen.
And that was a Michael Bay film, huh?
It was Michael Bay, and not just.
I'm like, oh, it's a documentary. It's a Michael Bay film. Now I feel really.
Not just is it a Michael Bay film. It's a Michael Bay film with Ben Affleck before Ben Affleck was Ben Affleck.
Ah, man, before he was Ben Affleck.
It might as well have been Casey Affleck, to be honest.
Casey Affleck. Manchester by the Sea. Just saying. Manchester by the Sea also was not a great film. It was kind of cool. It was a different take on things. I enjoy Manchester by the Sea. It was okay. Yeah. But he did win an award.
Sure.
That's really all that I have. I got it all on my system for Nolan.
Because fuck that dude.
Yeah, seriously. Caleb, do you have any final thoughts?
I mean, really, mostly people, as you're watching Nolan, please just understand that he has no idea what the fuck he's doing.
I think he does know what he's doing, but it's not very well done. Oh, I do have one other thing. We did talk about how his character, like all emotion is forced, but also all of his characters just generally lack emotion, and it's kind of general for his stuff. There's no emotion built into any of it, which
I agree with that.
I will kind of say some of me kind of enjoys. So I will leave on that positive-ish note.
Sure.
Actually, no, I'm going to leave on this. So Caleb and I were talking in our little chat. I said I wasn't going to say this on the show, but I'm totally going to say it, and Caleb knows what I'm thinking right now. This is so terrible. I was doing some research online. I found some blog. They brought up a very valid point. And it was Inception has the very same plot as The Dark Knight Rises. It is a hero risks his life, gets in danger, lives through it, and then leaves to bone Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's super true. I'm like, man, I didn't see Inception, but man, that's good. And I think that is where we are going to leave off, where the last critical thought was bone Anne Hathaway.
I mean, what more critical thought is there?
A new high for the show. Anyway. Anyways, I want to thank Caleb for coming on tonight. Thank you, Caleb. And until next
time,
take care of yourself and each other.
Thank you for listening to the Cult of MCS1 podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or whatever podcasting platform you listen to. For more information about the show notes and links, head over to thecultofmcs1.com or search AOL keyword MCS1.